Hey there, Shecky here with a knife review and knife comparison or shootout between these two particular knives. Let me get to the review part first. So for that I'm going to set this particular knife away. This is, I'm sure as many of you can already tell, the Kershaw Blur. This particular model is in S30V. I'm going to leave the blade steel out of this comparison because that's not really a fair comparison. And I'm also going to make the assumption, because I have checked this, that other than the blade steel, this knife is identical to the lower versions of the Blur with lower quality steel than S30V. So basically what I'm saying is, other than the steel, this thing is like every other Blur primarily that's available out there. So the less expensive ones that have the Sandvik steel have everything identical to this knife other than their steel. And this is in the finish that they call Sandblast, I believe. I'll annotate if that's wrong, but it's very attractive. It's got a very smooth feel to it. Not a lot of shine, which, you know, kind of has a tactical feel to it, whether you like that or not. But a very nice looking blade, steel wise. And that's really individually all I need to do as far as separating these knives. So as I compare this knife, the Kershaw Blur, to this knife, the SOG Flash 2, keep in mind that we're not going to compare the steel, nor are we going to compare the price of this knife in S30V to this knife in AUS 8. That wouldn't really be fair, have any real point to it. So basically, let's talk a little bit about the two knives, beginning with blade shape. I like both of these blade shapes a lot. As far as EDC, I give the edge to the SOG Flash for a couple of reasons. It does have a full flat grind, which tends to have less drag as it goes through material. It's easier to sharpen because it's a very straight edge going up to the rounded tip. No problems there. And then to be compared to this knife, which has a bit of a recurve, if you notice here, and has a good belly, which is good for EDC, and then a nice sweep to the tip. However, it is a broader knife compared to this narrower knife on the SOG Flash 2, meaning that it's going to have more drag through material. So I'd say a slight edge on EDC here to the SOG Flash 2. However, and again, this is just my personal preference, I like the aesthetics of this blade more. I just think it's a cooler looking blade. I like the sweep on the spine, the way it goes down to the base of the blade. Just to me, I like it a little bit better. I like the markings on the blade a little bit better on the Blur. I'm kind of over the SOG emblem and the very basic typeface that they use on the Flash 2. Again, if you disagree with that, that's fine. It's just my personal preference. Very minimalistic stamping on the Blur. It's got the manufacture date, steel type, the model number, patent, and made in the USA. So very, very basic. You know, nothing too audacious. Very simple, which I like. Moving on to the handles, and I'm going to go ahead and close these for that, just so we can take a little closer look to it. This is a Zytel handle, light, which really gives a big edge to this in a lot of ways. It's a very light handle, sturdy, doesn't flex like a lot of Zytels do, and again, that may have something to do with the thickness of these handle scales, which is a downside in my opinion, and I'll compare these in a minute. The Blur has aluminum with a grip insert. I think it's called Track Tech or something like that. Again, I'll annotate if that's wrong. Heavier, however, if you look here, much thinner. It's a significantly thinner construction because of how much thinner the aluminum slabs are compared to the Zytel. So I give the edge, and also I think the aesthetics on this is significantly better. So I give the edge on handle material and handle design to the Blur. Clip. I'm in the same camp as Nut and Fancy. I like a blade to disappear in my pocket, so there's really no question that the clip on the SOG Flash 2 is going to win this one. However, that being said, I don't think that the clip on the Kershaw is bad. There is some track tech that does get in the way of your pocket. However, they do get rid of the track tech directly under the pocket clip, which is a great thing for Kershaw to do, and I greatly appreciate that. This, however, can only be switched up and down, where this SOG can be left and right, which is a concern to people who are left-handed, because I'd say that knife's kind of useless for left-handed unless you don't mind carrying in your right pocket if you're left-handed, which I can't imagine. These are both assisted openings, so I want to talk real quickly about assisted opening. Basically, there's a huge difference in the quality and what they do when they open. If you look at this knife, if I stop this, it really wants to open all the way. Okay, so as opposed to this knife, where if I stop it, it goes halfway. And why that's significant is it makes this knife much, much easier to close once it's fully opened. Once it gets to that halfway point, it stays, and then you just close it. Whereas this knife, you have to keep a finger on it and then close it. Secondly, the assisted opening mechanism in the Blur is infinitely smoother than in the SOG Flash. This thing, when it goes out, you feel metal against metal, and that's never something that I prefer. So that's, to me, there's a strong hands down winner in the opening mechanism in the Blur. Now, locking mechanism. I really do not like the locking mechanism on the SOG. It's hard to actuate. I think it's sunk down a little too far for what it is, and because it's so hard to actuate. I like that it's fairly flush, but the fact that you have to really pull it down, and again, you have to keep pressure on the spine with the top of your finger and then transition to your thumb, that doesn't work for me. And again, this thing closing is even worse metal to metal. It's just creaky and just it doesn't feel right to me. This has a standard liner lock, very simple to actuate, and I can just sit and do this thing. I can just do this for days. I love the deployment on this. I love the lockup, and I like the locking mechanism is fine. It doesn't bother me at all. As I said before, I don't have any plans of trying to break this off in somebody's skull. So the lock is perfect for me, and I don't have any doubts that if I did try and have to deploy this in some kind of defensive situation, I feel like it would do perfectly fine. So in summary, I think these are both not good knives. In the lower quality steel, the Kershaw is going to be a little bit more expensive than the SOG, but overall, I think it's the better knife. In the showdown, I think the Kershaw beats the SOG Flash in all the categories that I consider most important. So, just as my opinion, if I had the $50 to spend, $50 to $60 to spend, I'd be picking up that Kershaw. Again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. If you feel like subscribing, it would be greatly appreciated. Have a great day.